Hi, Mrs. Hall here again, and I would like to teach you today how to create a works cited and how that works cited corresponds to your InText citations. So you're going to be creating this works cited for your mental illness project, and I'm going to be referring to your mental illness project, but please know that this information is universal and it can be applied to any time that you are using sources and need to have a works cited page or a works cited slide at the end of a project. So let's get started. You've been taught MLA format. Hopefully you've been taught the logic behind the works cited page or slide in your InText citations, but I'm going to do a little refresher for you on that. First of all, you know that your works cited needs to be in alphabetical order. You might be saying, yeah, duh, we know that. However, I say it because so many of my students, when they're putting a project together, they disregard this detail and they don't put their sources in alphabetical order. So you want to make sure they're in alphabetical order, and the reason is so they're easy to find. You don't want to put them in just whatever order you find them. You want to actually organize them before you submit your project. So you can see that I've given you an example works cited slide here with 4 different sources. And I've actually gone into these sources and I have looked for the information, and I'm going to quickly walk you through the information that is included in a works cited entry for an electronic source at least. I'm not an EasyBib user or NightCite user. I like to put my own works cited information together. I like to create my own works cited page to make sure that I'm doing it correctly. I don't always trust those websites, and I just as soon put my own information in. Your handbook does a really nice job of laying out the information that you need to have in each works cited entry. So if you want to pause your video real quickly and grab your agenda book and look at it with me, I'm not sure the page number, but you can find it real quickly. Come on back and then I will go through it with you and show you how to put this information together. So I want to start down here at the bottom with the source that actually has an author. It's rare that an electronic source has an author, but using the internet more, we are finding more and more people putting their names on the blogs or the articles that they're writing. So this source right here has an author. I'm going to go to the source real quickly. It's from WebMD, and here's your article title, Exercise May Help Ease Depression in Teens, and it's a study by Robert Prite, or however you pronounce his last name, I'm sorry. And he's a Health Day reporter, but that's not something that you have to have in your works cited. So the important things that you want to find when you are trying to create a works cited is you want to find an author, if you can. You want to find the website, obviously, that you're getting the information from. This one is going to be WebMD. You want to find the article title, which is here, and you want to find the publishing information, which is always at the very bottom by the copyright information. So here you have a copyright or a publication date, and you have a publisher. A lot of times you're going to find your publisher is the same as your website title, and that's okay. And I'll show you how to distinguish between the two of those. So we've got all that information here. So when we're plugging it into our works cited page, we always start with our author's last name, followed by a first name. Then we lead into the article title in quotes. Then our website, WebMD for this one. And this one is italicized, showing it as a title. If you're handwriting this, you would underline it. Underlining and italicizing are the same thing. Then you have your publisher. And I told you it's often the same as your website. And here we have that. And this time it's not italicized, distinguishing it from the website title. Our publication date, sometimes it's an actual date with a month and a day. Sometimes it's just 1 year. Other times it's a series of years like we have here, 2005 to 2014. And then we have whether it's a web or a print source, and we have a web source, obviously. And this date here is your date of access, the date that you actually went to the site. So when I went to the site and created this works cited entry, it was February 13th, 2014. So that's my date of access. And then I always like you to put in your web address so that if I do want to go to it, I can quickly get to it and I don't have to search all over to find this article that you used. I can just go in and look at it. I'm not just checking up on you, although I do random InText citation checks to just make sure that you are using the correct InText citation. But I also sometimes will use some of the articles that you find for future classes. So this one, if you were to find this article and it's relatively new, and it might be one that I've never read before. I might actually want to use it with another class, sort of a thing. So I like to have easy access to that website that you've used. So that's how you put your information together to create a works cited entry. Now if you look up here, you'll notice that I have ND. This is the spot for our publication date. Now what I'm finding, and you'll see that I have 3 of them like this from very credible sources. This source is Mental Health America, National Institute of Mental Health, and helpguide.org, which I've used a number of times. All 3 of these sources don't have publication dates, which I found very odd, but I looked all over for it and I couldn't find it. If that's the case, okay, if you really can't find it, it's not down there by that copyright information, you don't just leave it blank, you don't skip it, you actually put in N period, D period to signify I looked for a date, I could not find one, and so this source does not have a publication date. If you can't find a publisher, now this is very rare, you would put N period, P period, but I would ask me first before you are going to put in NP, because most times, 9 times out of 10, there is a publisher that students just weren't able to find, or we were looking in the wrong place, that kind of a thing. Most of these websites have publishers, and you want to make sure that you give that publishing information in your works cited. Now let's look at InText Citations. The logic behind InText Citations and works cited, the way that these work together, is that the InText citation that you use is the first part of your works cited entry for that source. So if this is the source you're getting information from, or that you're citing information from, your InText citation is going to look just like that. It's going to be in quotes the article title, because this one does not have an author. This source here does. And so all you would put is the author's last name after the information that you are citing from that source. If there's no author, you go to whatever is next. So this one would be, in quotes, Depression Help Guide. You usually only have to put about the first 3 words of the article title if it's a long article title. For example, if this source here didn't have an author listed, you would just put in quotes, exercise may help. You don't have to put the whole article title, just the first 3 words. Exercise may help, in quotes, and then if you wanted to put ... to show that there's more to it, that's fine as well. Now, what do I do when I have multiple sources that have the same article title? When you're doing a mental illness project, it's inevitable that you're going to have sources with the same article title. Well, then what we do is we go into the next part of the works cited entry, the website, and we want it again to look exactly like it does on the works cited slide. If this were the source you were citing information from, we would have depression in quotes with its period there, followed by mental health. The first 2, if you wanted to put 3 words, you can, but 2 is enough, and you would make sure that you italicize that, because it's italicized here in your works cited. If this were the source, then you would have, again, depression with quotes, and then you would put the next part, National Institute, italicized. So the point is that when I see this, I'm going to go to your works cited slide, and I'm going to look for the article titled Depression in the D's, and then I'm going to look for the website Mental Health. So for example, as we go back to the main page, I'm going to look for this source right here. And I can quickly find that web page because you've included the web address, and I can go there very fast. If I'm looking for, if you've got the one that has the National Institute, this is going to be the one. What I find a lot of students doing to show me that this is the difference between the 2 sources, they just skip depression and they just put in National Institute of Mental Health, or they put in the publisher or whatever, and that is incorrect, and you're going to be marked down for that. You always want to start at the beginning. Again, because I want to find that source, and the easiest way to find it is through your alphabetized works cited page. A couple more details. You're not going to like this very much, but this is the way it needs to be done. This is the Mayo Clinic website. I looked up depression, and there are a number of different pages that go along with depression, and I've circled a couple of them here. And what I want to show you is that whenever I go to a different one of these links, it takes me to a different web page. So when I'm here on symptoms, you'll see the web address here, and it ends with symptoms down here. When I'm on the definition page, the URL ends with definition. As much as you don't want to do it, this is 2, if you use both of those pages, this is 2 separate works cited entries. This one here would be Mayo Clinic staff, and please put it Mayo Clinic staff. It's not a first name last name, so don't put staff comma Mayo Clinic. That's not appropriate because it's not a first name last name. So it'd be Mayo Clinic staff, in quotes, depression, major depressive disorder, because that's right here the name of this article, with a subtitle of definition. So you'd put a colon after that and then put definition, and then the rest of it is the same. You'd put Mayo Clinic for your website, and then this is your publisher, Mayo Foundation for Medical Education and Research, your publication date, it's a web source, date of access, and then the actual URL. When you're citing this one here with symptoms, same thing, except this time your subtitle is symptoms and your URL changes. So when I'm showing the difference in an in-text citation between these two sources, you're going to have a lot in it this time. If you look here, the one for definition, you'd have Mayo Clinic staff, because that's how it starts. Then in quotes, you'd have depression, major depressive disorder, colon, definition, because that's the first thing in your works cited entry that is different from the other source that's similar. If you look at this one, it doesn't say definition here, it says symptoms. So that's how I know the other source would be the one from the definition page. This in-text citation would be Mayo Clinic staff, depression, major depressive disorder, colon, symptoms. Again, you go to the first thing that's different. So I hope that helps you as you're putting your project together, or as you're putting any sort of works cited and in-text citations together. It's logical, it is there for a reason, and it's trying to make it not easy for you necessarily, but easy for your reader or your viewer. So if you have any questions, make sure you ask me or email me, and I'd be happy to answer and help you out with that. Until next time, have a great day.